All right, welcome to my home garage. I finally have my audio system complete. Actually, I have the whole garage complete. So I wanted to take you through the audio setup in here. Now this is flagship. Like this would be like the ultimate garage setup. We can add it up here, but it's something like 20 grand to do it this way, which there's massive diminishing returns from say 5 grand to 20. And part of the reason I'm doing this, or I did this, is because I'm a dealer for this stuff, and so I can buy this stuff on, buy this stuff direct from them at wholesale discounts because I'm, a wholesale a dealer for this stuff. But if you wanted something great, you gotta pay for it. That's the way it goes. And so I want to take you through how we set this up, what the wiring's like. I'll show you how I use it, and we'll play a couple songs for it, I guess, so you don't freak out. Which doesn't make sense to me. You'd want to play it when you're watching this video on your phone or your laptop or something like that. But the garage, a couple of mistakes I made in the beginning, or the main mistake I made was that I've forgotten that this is 22 feet apart, right? And so I'm losing my stereo image. I just didn't really, I don't know why I didn't think of that. I always planned to put my bookshelf speakers on the ends of the cabinets out of the way, or the ends of the countertop out of the way from where I'd be working in the middle, and then I thought I'd have a display in the middle, so I had extra room so the uppers weren't in the way. But they're 21 and some inches apart, which, again, I'm not gonna be sitting in the garage and critically listening to music. Shoot, you can hear my voice. There's an echo in here. It's not in fact, it's a horrible acoustic environment. It's certainly not a room worthy of the level of equipment that we have in here. But if I were doing it again, I'm going to do this again, but I think I would probably consider not doing an upper cabinet and then likely wall mounting on a bracket my speakers. That'll get them off of the countertop and also get them closer to the center of the room. So that would be one thing I would do. But what we have in this setup, I've got a pair of Dynaudio Heritage Special. So these are like a parts bin, special edition speaker from Dynaudio. I love how modern this garage is set up, and then we have the retro speakers. I just like that contrast. I think it's a pretty cool setup. So I've had Evoke 10s in here, I've had Evoke 20s in here, I've had PSB speakers in here, like PSB P4 or P5s. I've had AM3s, I've had Dynaudio Zeos in here. I had the Dynaudio Special 40s in here as well. These are $7,000 a pair, so obviously they're my favorite. But something about these are first order crossover, Isotar tweeter, just incredible speakers. And I have these on a Isoacoustics Aperta sound isolation stand. One, it gets the angle up closer to my ear when I'm standing, and then two, it gives me an area to sort of dust under here, where I'm not having to sort of pick the speaker up and move around. So the wired connection, the speaker connection, I have just a regular binding post plate. We ran 12 gauge, so I just ran 12 gauge CI installed wire. And then I bought this stuff. This is and I tried to make my own fancy speaker wire, which I didn't get the right size of things. But this is like, I watched some guy, there's some guy on YouTube who makes like high-end speaker interconnects. So I got it 90% of the way there, but I couldn't get the right size of wire loom for here. So I'm gonna make another set here shortly at some point. But it's kind of pointless to do a high-end speaker wire here because I've got 25 feet of speaker wire running through the walls up into the attic. So it really doesn't benefit all that much, other than I just didn't want to see the white wire, and so it looks a little prettier there to have it set up like that. So I'd highly consider doing multi-channel in here, especially after I made that mistake, but we'd already closed up all the walls and I already had to get the tile guy scheduled. But I also thought about, if you're gonna set up a long countertop array like this, it would make sense to do a center channel and then do some rear speakers, and then you could do multi-channel stereo, which I think really is another really viable option for a garage, especially a sort of a weird size garage or weird shaped garage like this. You know, if I was going to be here permanently, then I really thought about even mark the ceiling off for doing, you know, 7 speakers in here. So do the front 3, center channel, you know, subwoofer, and then doing, you know, 4 rear speakers, and then running it often. If I'm ever watching, you know, watching the TV, I could play, you know, Dolby surround, or I could, you know, listen to multi-channel stereo with most receivers. I could have put like an NAD T778 here or something like that. But I decided to shut her down, just stick with the 2-channel setup. The DIRAC room calibration really pulled in the image, and so I did a wide image calibration for here. And so as I'm walking around the room, it doesn't sound like, if I'm over here, it doesn't sound left heavy. I can still get, you know, detect some right channel. You know, obviously if I come toward the middle, I'm getting a better, you know, a better experience, having a better audio experience. But you know, it turned out okay, and so it certainly looks great, and certainly is, you know, functional for a garage like this. The other problem is I'm in this crappy neighborhood where, you know, my neighbor's 25 feet away, so the only time I really come in here and turn it up is when the doors are open. One of the things that will really help is when I insulate the garage doors. So that'll take some of the echo out of the room. I could do some acoustic treatments in here, but I just don't think it's worth it. It sounds good enough, especially after doing the room calibration. So then I've cheaped out here, but I'm going to be doing two sub-6s. I actually haven't had one in stock, but I did have 2 sub-6s in here, and then I used one in my other, you know, I actually took one out of here and put it in my home theater. But the Dynaudio sub-6, I have one here, and I planned this out when I was doing the electrical. What I didn't plan on, I planned on doing a taller subwoofer. I didn't plan on these Dynaudio subwoofers being my preferred sub on the planet. So they're a little shorter. I would have done the outlet even lower, but I put an outlet there, and then I did an exact opposing outlet on the other side of the garage. And so I had both running. Again, I took it out because my JL sub blew up, and so I need to unbox another one and put it there. But these are set up wirelessly. So I have an OSD audio receiver on each speaker, on each subwoofer, or we'll have one on each subwoofer. And so these are set up wirelessly. They play down to 16 hertz. The OSD does limit me a bit, and then it makes it so I can only play down to 18 hertz, but you know, it freaking sounds pretty great in here. And so with the TV, so video is less important to me in here, but when you're doing a display in your garage, when you have garage doors or windows, I don't have any window treatments. I don't want window treatments in here. You need LCD, or what most people think is LED. There's nothing LED about this other than the backlight. This is an LCD display, so it's a liquid crystal display, which is a translucent material on the screen. The nice thing about it is, I mean, you can see some of my reflections, some of the reflections of the light in here, but this is much better in a well-lit room. In every other room in my house, I have an organic LED and OLED display. Organic LED creates its own light source, where this has a light, basically a LED light bulb behind it. And so this is a Sony inexpensive 75-inch. I think this is like a $1,500 TV. And I know people cringe at me saying $1,500 for a 75-inch TV is dirt cheap. Especially to me, I mean, when I was selling TVs back in the early 2000s, I would, you know, the 75 Mitsubishi Diamond was like 10 grand or 12 grand or something like that. And it was way inferior to this. But you know, having LCD in the garage helps with glare, so I can still see it even in the bright of the day with the doors open. I can see it. If I had plasma or OLED or something like that in here, it would look better at night. But other than that, you really wouldn't be able to see the display very well. And so this is set up. I do have video going back to my M33, but the other mistake I made, the second mistake. This is all wired up. I have a network, so I have an Ethernet to Cat6 connection running to the display. I ran 2 8K capable 25-foot fiber optic HDMI cables, but what I didn't factor in is the HDMI cables are directional. And so I screwed up, and I also didn't run an optical cable, which I should have done, because most 2-channel streaming DACs don't do video switching. They'll have a single video or a single HDMI input, but they don't do switching. And so I want to run an Apple TV in here. I don't want to run the crappy Sony Android software. And so I can't, it won't send, the cables that I have won't send the audio return channel back. And so I have to have the Apple TV in my cabinet. I've made it work. I'll explain that in a second. But one thing you want to do is you want to run, I think you want to run optical. Single optical would be fine. So that way you could use, and you could hook up an Apple TV to the back of display or Roku or something like that. And you want to run non-directional HDMI cables if you can. Or if they are directional, make sure one is pointing that way and the other is pointing this way, so I can send video and then I can send audio back. Because again, most network digital analog converters, most stereo devices won't have HDMI switching. The other thing I thought about doing was just putting a multi-channel, putting a surround sound receiver in here, which would have HDMI switching and solve my problem. But those are going to be inferior to, especially what I have in here now, what I'm using. So I've got speaker wires running through the walls, which we pre-wired when we had all the walls out and tearing things apart. I have the 2 HDMI cables. I have 2 Ethernet cables as well run to the back of the display. And those home run here into this cabinet. And so this is where I have my source component. And so this is a really simple system. 2 speakers, a TV. On the very top here, which you can't see, is an Apple TV 4K. And then I have this insane NAD M33. Again, this is flagship. This is something we all dream to have in their garage. This is what I do for a living, so it makes sense. This is, if you can swing it, you want it. But this is a $5,500, 200 watt per channel NAD Class D amplifier with 32-bit 384 kilohertz Sabre DACs. It has, a Purify Class D amplifier. It has this insane, digital LCD display, which is freaking insane, awesome. Even has little isolation pucks, little magnetic isolation pucks that it sits on, make sure there's no additional vibration. And so what I have here, what I have behind here, so I've got my left and right speaker wires running in with some banana connectors on it. I've got my subwoofer, so I've got a Y adapter coming out of the single sub out that's going into 2 wireless transmitters, because I did the subwoofers wirelessly. And then I actually have the wireless transmitter up on top. So I have it on top of the cabinet because it won't work well in a metal cabinet when the door's closed. I wanted to be able to do that. I have an old Monster HTS 5000, so this is where I have everything plugged into. This is it's an old school power conditioner. I've just had these for decades, just coming up on 2 decades now. I've had these, and that's it. That's the whole system. So Apple TV feeds this, and the way that I overcame my issue with directional cables is this NAD M33 has a MDC module, so it has the ability to put a card in it, and that adds HDMI switching. So even though this is a 2-channel non-home theater, this is like a stereo listening streaming device. I was able to make it work by doing the $350 module to make it so that I could run Apple HDMI into this and then HDMI out using my directional cable back to the TV, back to the display. So the other thing I did to the cabinet here, we'll grab a shot here, but I put in a AC Infinity fan. I cut a hole in the cabinet. I don't have it running this time of year, but in the summer I'll run it. Now this is air conditioned, and I'll keep the garage air conditioned most of the time, so I probably won't need it. But I do want to be able to use this with the cabinets closed. A couple of things that benefit me here. One, the NAD is a Class D amplifier, so it runs really, really cool. And then secondly, I have the fan on there as a backup in case it started to heat up in here. And then Michelle insists on having a printer, so I got that stupid Epson printer here. This is also where my network is, and so I have a unmanaged switch that's coming off of my Comcast modem, and then we wired this house after I moved in. So I spent thousands to get Ethernet connections, so that most of the things in the house, my iMac, all the TVs in the house, they're all run from Ethernet rather than running Wi-Fi. So keep the network as clean as possible. And so the way that I use the system, again, I'll close this. And then the NAD stuff is pretty cool in that I just learned this the other day in watching one of David Dunn's training videos from NAD, from Lenbrook in Canada. They're the representatives for these. But you can set auto, there's an auto standby. And if you turn the auto standby on, then even if this is off, which I have off most of the time, when I go to my Blue OS app, it will automatically turn it on. So if you can see that, Mike, but here's my M33 showed up. My M17 is off, and I don't have auto standby turned on. I'm going to go turn that on the M17. But normally I would see my M33, which I have as garage. My M17 is called home theater, and I'd be able to handshake back and forth if I wanted to. If I was listening to something in here, listen to music, I could then just handshake and just press the button and move it, either merge it and listen to both at the same time, or I could change my music right to the home theater. Now, when I build my house, I will have the pool deck and some of the other areas. Instead of doing some sophisticated Control 4 or Crestron or some other Elan, some more sophisticated distributed audio system, even like a Niles or some old school system like that, I'm going to do all the NAD Blue Sound stuff because I love the Blue Sound app, and the architecture will work great as long as you're on the network. So I actually have an Ethernet connection to both my Apple TV and the M33 here, so they're not connected to Wi-Fi. They could be, but they're not. So everything's wired in here as well. And so if I want to listen to some music, I just simply choose something in the app, and I'm using Tidal MQA, and then I'm capable or able to listen to whatever I want, whenever I want. The subwoofer's playing wirelessly, and then the speakers are connected via speaker wire. Now, it's such a big area. One subwoofer's fine. I can just crank it up. But I get much better dispersion when I bring the other sub. So I should have brought it for this video, but I'm gonna do it tonight. It's set up exactly the same way as this. Same wireless connectivity. And I'm only coming out of the wireless, the NAD has two subwoofer outputs, but they're not discrete. It's really just a Y adapter inside of the M33. And so I just have a Y adapter coming out, and one's feeding each transmitter. I have two OSD audio transmitters and then two OSD audio receivers. And so then when I'm doing the DIRAC calibration, it's only doing room correction on one subwoofer, even though there are two of them. But it's able to sense where the bass is. I basically took my tripod, put it in the middle of the room, and then did 14 different calibration points in here. And I chose the wide image. So if you're doing a garage and you happen to have a fancy device that has room correction like the NAD M10, if we did the surround sound receiver, if we did multi-channel, you want to choose the wide image option in the garage. That way, as I'm walking around doing stuff, I don't have this like tightly focused image like right in the center, which I probably wouldn't get anyway because the speakers are 22 feet apart. You want to be 10, 12, maybe 14 feet. At the most from your speakers in order to get a decent center image of audio quality. So that's the whole system. Really pretty simple. It's a lot of money, but $7,000, $2,400. So we're at $9,400. Another $5,500. So what is that? That's $14,900. The TV's another $1,500. So the TV is, so what is that? That's 16, what did I say? Yes, 14.9, 15.9, 16.5. I got the old monster, which we won't even count that. And then I guess we have technically another subwoofer. So that's another 2,400. So that's 18.9. And then we probably have another, $300 in cables. So that's 19.2, That's excluding the electrician and the other, money I had to spend in labor to get it done. So like I said, that's right around, that's a good guess, right around 20 grand to do this setup. Now, what you could do, you're watching this for ideas, what you could do is, let's not do a $7,000 pair of speakers, let's do a pair of mid-20s, $1,000. What are they? I think $1049. Or let's even better. Let's do a set of P5s for $450. You could do a similar setup to this. Let's not do an M33. Let's do a C368, which is $1,100, $1,200. So now we're at $1,400. Let's get us an SVS sub for $600. Do some like PB 1000s. You can do 2 of them for another $1,200. So less than $3 grand, we can get you a really killer system. I'm hoping that I know Blue Sound is talking with Onkyo and Integra about possibly putting Blue Sound in a stereo network receiver from Onkyo. That would be really cool. Because I'm telling you, the Blue OS streaming versus using whatever Onkyo's version or like Yamaha's called MusicCast, Sonos, none of them touch the capability and how well the Blue Sound thing works. Because the way that it works on my phone is the remote control. So this thing is just telling the NAD what to do. The player is in the NAD. And so I'm getting full 24-bit, 192 kilohertz, full high-res file, in this case MQA files, master quality audio files from Tidal. But I'm able to listen to the system in full high-res in my garage. I'm telling you, the audio in here sounds better than my voice does because of the room calibration. The one thing I haven't figured out yet, and I need to continue to do some more work on, when you do the room calibration on, you do the DIRAC calibration on any of the NAD stuff with a Mac, this is what I found. When I set the levels, it attenuates the audio output, and so I can't play it quite as loud as I'd like at maximum output. So that's something I'll follow up with you later as I figure that out and finally get that nailed down. But I would say that I think it has something to do with setting volume levels on the. So what I've been trying to do is when I'm doing the calibration, I find that if I calibrate at a lower volume, as low volume as I can make it work, then it seems to not attenuate or bring the headroom volume, the maximum volume down too far. But if I turn off DIRAC, I could blow the speakers out of the box here if I wanted to with the NAD. It has tons and tons of power. So that's something I need to figure out. But up to this point, the combination of NAD, Dynaudio, or NAD and PSP is really freaking great. So this is obviously, again, a flagship 2-channel choice. The key is I want to give you multiple choices and then have the ability to teach you or get you or design you surround systems as well for both the garage and the house. My future company or future sister company we're creating is called Destination Obsessed Garage, Destination OG. That's where we do a lot of the home theater stuff, but we can still do multi-channel audio in the garage. And so we've got your needs covered for all bases. If you had a 10,000 square foot facility where you wanted to put multiple pairs of speakers in multiple zones, we can do that. If you wanted to do a 2-channel, either low end or high end or medium end setup in your garage like this, we can certainly do that. The other thing that is, make sure to go check out the studio monitor videos. That's another way to do it. This is doing amplifier, passive speakers, traditional. The other non-traditional ways I've been doing it is with either an NAD preamp, the C685, and a pair of core studio monitors. The studio monitors have the amplifier built in, or something more realistic like LYDs, LYD8s from Dynaudio, and then a Blue Sound Node is a really amazing combination. So you can always hit me up, matt@obsessedgarage.com. It's super helpful if you buy this stuff from me. Helps us continue to chase these things. But I wanted to share with you how this came out. And like for instance, I don't even have these speakers on the site. If you wanted to get these, we'll special order them for you. But they're, again, diminishing returns here. The difference between the Evokes and this crappy listening environment and Heritage Specials is certainly not worth it unless you just have to have the best, which, as you know, I have a bit of a problem with having to have the best. So anyway, that's our audio setup, and I'm pretty pleased with it. We're about to rip this thing out of here because I think I'm moving to another house. So we'll do it again, build another system in another garage. So anyway, thanks for being here, and I guess it's good to say, as always, stay tuned for more crazy. It's a crazy system, but I think it's a lot of fun. We'll see you on the next one.